And welcome back to the 10-Minute Product Podcast, where we tackle leadership challenges for product people. From my own experience in the industry, I'm your host, Christian.
And I'm your co-host, Jonas. And today's topic is about saying no, but constructively.
And it sounds simple. I can just say no, and everybody's going to laugh me out of the room. So how do you say this constructively? Anybody who's been in this position has learned how difficult it is to navigate. It's difficult to keep a focus. Even if you were just on your own, you would distract yourself a little bit sometimes, but it would still be feasible. But the main difficulty in bigger companies is that you work in difficult environments, complex environments, and there are other people that want something from you.
Exactly. So you all know it. The CCO wants to sell more, ideally on a higher price point. You have the COO who wants to reduce operational complexity of managing the product. And then you have the CFO who supports that because that person will always look to minimize any overheads that puts downward pressure on financial returns of the company. And then finally, you have the CEO who wants all of the above and also amazing new features that sets the product apart from competition. So it's very hard to navigate.
And people have ideas. The whole company wants something from you. So the pressure from the stakeholders is huge. The pressure to deliver, to prioritize, to achieve several different goals. And you can't do everything. Time is, I say time is not stretchable. You can only work on a certain amount of things. There is, if you look up the documentation that exists online, you can find tons of people have theories about this. One of the old PayPal rules was always focus on one thing. Focus on making one thing happen. It's the extreme version of it, but it does have its benefits. And so saying no helps you to increase focus. It's not about being, nasty, being this and that. It's about increasing focus of saying what are the one or two things we want to say yes to, and so that we can deliver those and get to the value faster. So Jonas, how do you set yourself up to say no then? Do you run into a room with a big banner that says no and, it's like, get a no, I'll give you a no for free. I'll give you another no for free. So how do you do it?
So it's basically a well-known tools from the toolbox, but it is to obviously start by interviewing your stakeholders, start by having a fairly good understanding around your target, the pains of your target audience, your customers or your users, and then work with your team to set product scorecards and document with data how your product is currently performing. And then work with stakeholders to bridge the product's KPIs across to the company objectives. So simply, or not simply, it can be at times pretty hard, but bridge how your product scorecard contributes to the forward movement of the company in effect. And then document how you believe the different product metrics can move the needle on those objectives. In effect, set targets for your product and take out a subset of leading indicators and prioritize those accordingly. When you've done that, and assuming the stakeholders sign up to that, then manage a process where idea owners, and this can be stakeholders, this can be customers, that you insist that they put forward cases for their ideas, and they need to link them to your product scorecard. Means they need to show how they move the needle, intend to move the needle by getting an idea onto your roadmap. Then ensure that retrospectively, after you committed resource towards an idea on your roadmap, that the stakeholder knows that the person needs to come back into the room and then verify that the case has either been fulfilled or not met. And that's, in a way, you create a very healthy dynamic there where people are kept accountable, but they also are forced to do upfront thinking, sizing up the opportunity they're promoting.
Okay, so I have a question for you because I've done this a few times as well. It's, getting all the stakeholders, interviewing them. I'm a stakeholder. I just spent literally, 48 hours of workshops with you to explain what I need. And then you go away, you noodle on your stuff, and you come back with a roadmap, and you tell me, oh, by the way, whatever you need is going to happen next quarter. This quarter, we decided to prioritize this. I will let you know in a very colorful way that I spent 48 hours with you explaining what I need, and now you tell me, well, thank you, but we're not going to do it. So how do you navigate that? Because if you pick one or two things and there's, 7 different departments that want stuff, how do you actually navigate that? What's your experience in this, and how do you not upset everybody in the process?
So first of all, by not investing, asking the stakeholders to invest 48 hours into do a discovery case, more ensure that you have some very top line case assessment where you ask the stakeholder or his or her team to provide evidence, but on high level what the case is. They'll help you on the first pass of prioritization. And then when you have a short list of priorities, then you work through the detail of that to understand not just the value of delivering it, but also the operational complexity of bringing it into a live product. Then you have an idea around the cost profile of let's say a new feature, a new product, and then that makes the CFO happy in turn. So, but my recommendation is to not invest too much time early on in the case building, but ensure that everybody kind of follows the same process and are kind of compliant with that process.
The thing I would say for earlier stage, when you don't know how to quantify or how to measure yet very well, the thing there I would say is to use some more gut feel driven things. I've talked about this in some prioritization episodes and articles. For example, you can say, we'll do a one-line prioritization thing. Everybody just can, say one thing. If you worked on one of those things, of these ideas that we have, which is maybe let's launch in a new country, or we absolutely need to get this feature out, or we need a partnership with this company for a sales partnership through which, it'll be our new channel. And if you had only one that you can pick, what is it? And for example, you can get everybody to write one on the paper, and let's say half the people pick one particular thing, then we discuss. We say, is this the greatest thing? And then we can all agree on this. We don't know yet how it's going to pan out, but that is sort of the consensus then that, hey, we think this will make the biggest difference.
So I think I think many cases you'll find, in particular, if you join a new company in a new role, is that the priorities are all over the place, right? There's a long list of ideas put forward by teams and stakeholders and customers. And I think it'd be hard to kind of identify those top 1, 2, 3 cases in your idea backlog that kind of it makes it clear for everyone. So it can be quite a muddy prioritization exercise where it's very hard to find a coherent story for why you prioritize as you do. And I tried that in the past as well. And the part of this particular case I'm thinking of, I joined a fairly large enterprise. I saw a pattern of areas of optimization, let's say, in particular on the user experience and the underlying service infrastructure, that allowed me to make a claim and as such kind of take out a set of cases in the roadmap and say, I believe we can increase total revenue by 3% over, I think it was 4 months at the time. I can't pinpoint exactly which item in the backlog will deliver the 3%, but I believe combined that we can, as a team, can deliver that. And as such, I want to put forward the resource towards that. Mm-hmm. And in effect, what happened there was that clarified priorities. There was a bold statement saying, I believe we can increase revenue. Everybody likes revenue, in particular revenue growth. And it was in effect a means of getting something that in the backlog that was topically the same, but not clear-cut in terms of which one is the winning case. And over 4 months, we delivered multiple or several of these cases, and combined actually we succeeded in delivering a revenue growth that fulfilled the case that I put forward as CPO, and which rallied the stakeholders towards that. In this particular case, just for context, that was an e-commerce platform, and it was part of doing a re-platforming and implementing responsive design and so forth.
Yeah, I have many cases of stories that involve cutting scope and cutting things out. I generally also go back to the basics where I say, what are the actual objectives? Put the objectives on a list and say, right, we can achieve the first 2. And if we achieve the first two, will it be enough? And that's a little bit of MVP thinking, but in a bigger setting, it's not MVP. It's sort of what is the minimum that you need for people to be able to achieve their to be able to solve their problems, let's say, to achieve their objectives. And many things you don't need. There's discussions around UX every time. People want it beautiful. Do you really need beautiful? Mostly, actually, no. If you're not a AAA game, you don't need beautiful. You need efficient, quick, correct, precise, everything else, but you don't need beautiful in most cases. And there's many things you can cut from the scope. So I have a history of cutting scopes, but then we deliver stuff faster. And in general, I find that the first 6 months are a bit, I live on my word and my reputation, but then people see the acceleration and the speed at which we can deliver, and suddenly understand the method, basically. And it does take a while. But I think it's awesome to say no. It's so liberating. Once you've said no in a constructive way and somebody accepted it and you delivered faster, and then people realize that, oh, if we focus on these two things, we actually delivered them in a quarter. Now let's focus on the next two. In the end, if you do 2 things per quarter, and that is 8 per year, if you did eight things at the same time, you would never finish them in that year. If you do 2 at the same time, you actually can deliver 8 things in a year. And that's, I think, the very satisfying result and the business value result that you're aiming for a business. So say no.
Yeah, say no, but constructively, right? And also to just underscore the constructively, if stakeholders and even customers understand why you say no, because there is a stronger case in the backlog, they also accept it. And I think that will also allow you to say no more often and still secure the buy-in for the right people you need.
Yeah, it's your job as a product lead, absolutely, to concisely be able to narrate the stories around which ones are the things you think we should be doing. Right?
That's it. And it's hard to say no. It requires you in your role to stick your neck out, be bold, be willing to take a risk, making mistakes. As always, the recommendation is around mistakes is to be honest and transparent about them, and be clear on what you intend to do to mitigate them moving forward.
Absolutely.
Right? But that kind of creates trust with the right people. And we wanted to say thank you for yet another episode at the 10-minute product podcast. As always, if you like what you hear, click the follow button, subscribe, and spread the word. But also, not least, also share feedback. Other topics we haven't covered that you would like us to talk about, let us know. But otherwise, see you in the next episode.